Hey everyone, DadGFN here, and for the longest time now, I've been asked by people to talk about Gravity Falls ships. It happens so often, it's like people are like, what are your thoughts on Gravity Falls ships? Like this ship, that ship, whatever. And it's just, I've never really bothered talking about because I'm not really interested in ships. It's like, it's such a specific thing that people ask me about, but, it's something that's really popular apparently in the Gravity Falls fandom and apparently other fandoms, so I decided to look through Gravity Falls and make a proper ship tier list. So I've got tier maker here open up, and I got, the usual ranking of S tier all the way down to D tier. And I've also looked through the show and I found 20 ships that I thought were pretty interesting and worth talking about. So with that said, let's start off our Gravity Falls ship tier list. And we start, of course, with the most iconic one of all, the Stow War. So, the Stow War, where do we put this ship? This is the one in the screenshot that I have here, is the one that was used by, just the one that Stan and Ford made back when they were kids, and, we saw them talking about it on the swing set. This ship, we never really got to see it being used, because, well, it just sort of was there, and that was it. We saw a distant shot of it, of course, floating, so at least the thing floats, so I guess Stan and Ford are a bit better than what the Titanic was in that case, but, I mean, given we never really saw the Stow War being used, I can't really give it a rank, because we don't really know what the ship is capable of, so for that reason, I'm gonna have to put it in the, I think I'm gonna put in the B tier. B tier here is gonna be our neutral tier. Like, normally I have like an E tier, but I don't think we have enough ships for an E tier here. So we're going to leave it there. And yeah, B tier here is our neutral ground. Actually, no, I think C tier will be our neutral ground. I think I will add a D tier. Okay, E tier now created. So C tier is now our neutral ground. E tier is our poor ranking, I guess you could say. I think I'll probably make an F tier as well. So we got now S tier all the way down to F tier. So F tier is our absolute horrible tier, C tier is the neutral ground, and then of course S is the absolute best ground. So we're going to leave the Stow War in the neutral ground of C tier. And from there we're going to move on now to the Stow War 2. And, well, I mean, the Stow War 2, we actually did see it being used in the show, sort of at the end of it, and also in the Lost Legends comic towards the end of the book. But, beyond that, there's not really much else that we know about this ship, but we know that Stan and Ford's home for their time while they're out sailing, and it's pretty cool looking, so I'm going to put in the S tier for that reason. It's doing its job, so for that reason, that is a good ship, in my opinion. It's probably the best Gravity Falls ship, in my opinion. Moving on now to this ship here, and in case you don't know what this ship is, this was the ship that Stan and Ford were looking at when they were talking about how one day they're going to sail away from New Jersey and stuff. This ship, again, is also being used. It's actually sailing out there, but beyond that, there's not really much else we know about it, so I'm going to put it in the C tier because, yeah, it's not really else to say about that. Next, we got this ship here, which is the ship that was used by Schmipper and Schmabel during their with their grandpa when Stan was looking at them and being like, oh, this is an example of what I could have had, but Dipper and Mabel left me and stuff. So there's not really much to say about this ship. I mean, it gets the job done. Like, it just floats. Like, it's the ship that these kids are using with their grandpa while out on the lake. So it's not really much else to say there. So for that reason, I'm gonna put it in the B tier. I mean, it's not a great ship, but it's not a bad ship either. And also, I have no negative opinions about it, so I guess I'm gonna put it there. It's a pretty non-controversial ship, if you ask me. Moving on from there, we then have this ship here, which looks more like a fishing boat, to be honest. I think this was in, again, the Legend of the Gobblewonker, so a lot of these ships here are going to be from the Legend of the Gobblewonker. And not really much else to say about the ship, it just sort of existed there. There wasn't really any character using it, so I'm just going to put it in the C tier for that reason. Moving on from there, we got Tyler's ship that he was using when he was doing Giddim to Manly Dan when he was beating the shit out of a fish. Again, this ship just gets the job done, so there's not really anything to say about that, so I'm going to put it in B tier for that reason. Moving on from there, we then have Blubbs and Durlin's police boat. This thing actually, again, it's a ship that gets the job done. There's not really much else to say in that regard, so I'm just going to put it in the B tier for being usable, at least. Then we've got the original Stow War when Stan and Ford found it in the cave. So this is when they were kids and before they started restoring it. This ship is absolutely garbage because it obviously doesn't work. It doesn't do its practical job of being a ship. So for that reason, I'm going to put it in the E tier. E tier because, it ended up being restored, but E tier because, it doesn't do anything. It's not an actually functional ship. But, it's pretty cool looking, considering the location of it in the cave and stuff, so we'll give it some points in that regard. Moving on now, we got these two ships that appeared briefly in Nauti's Seams when the portal started lighting up and making gravity float. There's not really anything to say about these two ships either. I think this one, it just looks really patched up. It's banged up. It's not really doing anything. Again, it's just a ship that exists, so it's not crap. So I'm gonna put it in the C tier again. I'm neutral on the ship. It's like, I'm overall neutral when it comes to a lot of these ships, so for that reason, I'm going to put this in the C tier for that reason. Okay, next we've got the ship that the Beavers were using as their home. As a ship, it doesn't actually do anything because it's destroyed, but it's the home of the Beavers, which is pretty cool, so I'm going to put in the D tier. D tier because it doesn't do its job as an actual ship, but D tier because but also I give some slack because it's the home of the Beavers, and the Beavers are pretty cool Gravity Falls characters. Okay, up next we've got the original Stow War that Stan used in the episode, the Gobblewonker, Legend of the Gobblewonker. This is the boat that he wanted to take Dipper and Mabel out on when they were going on that fishing trip, but of course Dipper and Mabel ditch him. And, there's not really much to say about this. It's a small little crappy boat that sort of is being held together by driftwood and nails. It didn't sink, at least during the entirety of the episode, and it was able to accommodate both the weight of Stan, then later Sue's, Dipper, and Mabel, so, it's a pretty decent ship. So I'm not going to say it's a great ship. I wouldn't want to sail on this ship, to be honest, but it is a respectable and usable vessel, so I will put it in the A tier for that reason. So it's a pretty decent ship in my regards. From there, we then go on to this ship, which was, it's technically two ships that were being used to transport a pane of glass. And what even was this? Like, it's a pretty funny gag of a take on a classic gag, but beyond that, I wouldn't really want to have a ship transporting my glass like that. Especially these two idiots, considering they destroyed the glass, even though it wasn't technically their fault. But still, why would you be transporting glass on two crappy little rowboats? Wouldn't you want to use a motorboat or something? Or maybe a boat that can actually carry the entire weight of it? So for that reason, I'm going to put this in the F tier, to be honest, because this is an absolutely crap way of transporting a pane of glass, and I wouldn't want my pane of glass being transported that way. Moving on from there, we then have a ship that we don't actually see, and it's related with Pacifica. When she won, well, more or less stole the crown of being the party queen at the Mystery Shack party, she says that there's going to be an after party on her parents' boat. We don't actually see what the boat is, but we can assume that it's some luxury yacht that her parents probably bought from some Russian oligarch or something. So, for that reason, we don't see the boat, and also because it's Pacifica, Season 1 Pacifica, I'm going to put it in the E tier because, it's a yacht, so it's probably going to be cool, but, Pacifica doesn't show it to us because she's too rich and snobby, so, yeah. Okay, moving on to probably the best ship, in my opinion, in this tier list, which is the SS Cooldude, which is Seuss's ship. I don't know how he was able to afford this ship on his Mystery Shack salary, but he apparently owns it, or at least he did until it was destroyed in this episode, so I have to give him some respect for that. It's a pretty well put together ship. It did end up being destroyed, but it did hold up until they were able to reunite with Stan, so I will give it that credit. I think it's a pretty cool ship overall in design and overall looks. I think it's a pretty fun ship to be on and be part of. It has, of course, multiple co-captains, so there's that. So I think I'll put in the S tier, to be honest. I think it's a pretty good ship. I will give Seuss the benefit of the doubt that he did a pretty good job building this ship on his Mystery Shack salary. Moving on from there, we then have Lazy Susan's boat that she was using to catch fish to fry, apparently. Again, this boat just ends up doing its job, so there's not really anything I can say in regards to that, so I'm just going to put in the C tier there. Also, I'm going to put into C tier this boat that was used by the couple with their kid that Stan was trying to teach how to tie a knot to, I think, in the episode. Again, it's just doing its job and it's holding these three people together, so, in this ship, so... there's that. It's not capsizing considering how much weight is on there, but, it's doing its job. These boats in Gravity Falls are pretty well built from the looks of it. Okay, even though this is technically not a ship, I'm going to put it in this tier list anyways because, you know, it's in the water. And this is Old Man McGucket's Gobblewonker robot submarine thing, whatever it's called. I mean, it's useful. I mean, it got defeated by a cave and a rock, but overall it was a pretty well done build and it's pretty respectable. And this is the episode that gave us the realization that McGucket is a lot more clever of a guy than he actually at first seemed to be. So for that reason, I'm going to put it in the A tier. I mean, it just gets the job done. So it was used to terrify Dipper and Mabel and Seuss, but hey, it worked. From there, we then move on to the second most iconic ship probably in this scene in this episode, which is, I mean, well, most iconic scene in this episode and probably one of the most iconic moments in Gravity Falls, but it's the ship that was being used by that couple when, you know, Stan approached and told his ex-wife joke. So again, this boat was used by this couple. I mean, it doesn't really do anything else. I mean, the dude was going to propose, but then, you know, Stan ruined the moment. But I mean, it got the job done. So I guess there's not really much else to say there. But yeah, C tier. I'm going to put it in C tier. Then we've got Manly Dan's ship. Again, I'm going to put this in C tier because, you know, it survived Manly Dan and his kids in, you know, beating the shit out of a fish. I wish Wendy was there because, you know, this would have been another great example of very Wendy family bonding and stuff, but this is also the first episode of Gravity Falls that was made, so probably didn't have any idea yet of that idea what to do in that regard, so yeah. And then finally, we're going to end this off with this ship that McGucket was pointing at as being proof of the Gobblewonker's existence. And as you can see, the boat is destroyed. So for that reason, I'm going to put this in the F tier because this is a destroyed ship. It's not actually being used. It's a dead ship. It's a finished ship. Like, the show killed the ship off. There's no way this is ever going to be canon now. Or what am I saying? I mean, there's no way this ship is ever going to sail again. So for that reason, this ship is dead. It's more dead than Squidward's hopes and dreams. But with that said, that's my tier list for these 20 Gravity Falls ships. I'm pretty happy with this tier list. I mean, I hope you guys are happy with this too. I did my best to try and be as fair as I could possibly be, and I hope you guys respect my opinions in regards to these ships. I know shipping is apparently a very controversial thing. You guys really love these ships for some reason, but yeah, I mean, I wanted to give my 5 cents into this matter, so here you go. This is the Gravity Falls ship tier list, ultimately finished. This is the ultimate only Gravity Falls tier list for ships that matters, and I hope you like it. And yeah, there's not really much else to say. I mean, I just spent 15 minutes making a video regarding ships, so yeah, what am I doing with my life? Anyways, hope you enjoyed this tier list and my opinions and my ranking of these ships. I hope you can agree with them, or maybe if you don't disagree with them, feel free to tell me in the comments why you don't like my opinion on these ships. But yeah, that's pretty much all I gotta say in this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and hope to see you guys again soon. Yeah, bye.